What up, you fluffy bastards? My name is Liquid Blitz, and today we have finally, after the longest of waits, we finally have Superclass number 11.
Chain Smoker.
Now, I don't condone smoking. It smells bad. But when you learn more about this Superclass, you will learn why I've called it the Chain Smoker. Anyway, without further ado, let's get right on it. I'm going to follow the tried and tested method. First of all, I'm going to go over the loadout. Then I'm going to talk about the strengths of this class, and then finally give you some gameplay tips to make the most of it. So, the loadout. This is using the Medic class. I've only got one superclass so far that uses the Medic class. They've all been sort of Assault or Support. So finally we're back to Medic, and the main weapon is the M1907 SL Sweeper. I did consider calling the superclass like the Janitor or the Caretaker or something like that because of the word Sweeper. Sweeper, like a janitor sweeps. Anyway, on the Sweeper we're equipping the 1.5 times zoom with the buckhorn sight, and we're also equipping the bayonet. As for the pistol, we're going for the slightly weaker, but lightning-fast M1914 pistol. As for the gadgets, first of all, we have the rifle grenade, the smoke variant. Now, that is absolutely vital to this superclass. That's why it's called the Chain Smoker, because there's so much smoke, man. Anyway, the second gadget is the revival syringe. So we're going to have a hella lot of smoke and a hella lot of revives. Lots of points. As for the grenade, we're actually using the smoke grenade as well, so you can already see how much smoke you're going to get with this class. A hell of a lot of smoke. After all, it is called the Chain Smoker. Anyway, finally we have the melee weapon. Now, I still haven't unlocked any of the puzzle piece melee weapons. Not one. I've got like 2 or 3 puzzle pieces for each one. The official melee weapon for this superclass is the Sawtooth Blade, because it's awesome and it cuts wire. And now, if you're like me and you haven't unlocked that yet, we're using the Hatchet instead, because that also cuts wire and it has the same amount of damage. So, Sawtooth Blade or Hatchet, both work. Anyway, that's the Chain Smoker loadout, so let's talk about the strengths of this class. The first strength is the most obvious. Hella lot of smoke. 6 loads of smoke, because there's 4 in the rifle grenade, and there's obviously you get the 2 smoke grenades. That is insane, and it makes it very, very easy to get lots of revives with no worry about getting shot whatsoever. It also makes it much easier to get closer to enemies, because the Sweeper is definitely a close-range rifle, so the smoke, it gets you lots of revives and lets you get close to enemies with good concealment. Now, moving on, the next few strengths are actually all about the Sweeper rifle. It has a lot of strengths. First of all, I consider it a strength. The Sweeper is fully automatic, whereas most other medic rifles aren't. In my opinion, this makes it uniquely easy to use at close range. It means you don't have to be as accurate when you're firing fully automatic. So it's good for sort of skilled players and low-skilled players alike. Anyway, moving on to the next strength of the Sweeper. The Sweeper has the highest max damage, I believe, of any medic rifle, with the exception of the French RSC 1917. But that's a DLC rifle, and I'm not counting DLC rifles. I mean, besides, that's a very slow-firing rifle as well, so ignoring that, the Sweeper has the highest max damage of 42. And to put that damage in perspective, that's 2 higher than the Mondragon and the Selbstlater 1916, so that's a high damage. Most people don't realise how high the damage is for the Sweeper. Powerful! Now, the next strength, again for the Sweeper, is the fact that it's a 3-shot kill up to 27 meters. Now, in terms of like bullets required to kill a target, that's on par with the Mondragon and Selbstlater 1916. So that is powerful. I mean, granted, those 2 rifles are they're a 3-shot kill at any range, that's one of the main strengths for those 2 rifles. But with the Sweeper, you're not going to be playing long range anyway, so you can just simply consider it a 3-shot kill. So up close, this thing is automatic and a 3-shot kill. That's powerful. That is a winning combination. Now, on top of that, the next strength, again to do with the Sweeper has a fast fire rate. It's actually joint fastest with the exception of the auto-loading 8. So this gun is automatic, it's fast firing, it's powerful up close, and the next strength, which I've written down, the Sweeper has a huge magazine size of 21. That is very high for a medic rifle. I mean, it's second, I believe, only to the Selbstlater 1916, which has a mag size of 26. So let's recap these strengths then. The Sweeper has a high max damage. It's fast firing. It's fully automatic. Has a huge mag size. It's a 3-shot kill up to 27 meters. Seriously, the M1907 Sweeper for the goddamn win. Anyway, enough geeking out over the Sweeper. Let's move away from the Sweeper. Let's talk about the pistol, the M1914. I think it's safe to say that the M1914 is fast as balls. And balls are the fastest of all things. I need to stop saying that. Pistols, in my opinion, are sort of best used simply to finish off people you've already damaged them. And I've always found it easier myself to use sort of a faster, weaker pistol than try to be accurate with a slower, more powerful pistol. I guess it sort of comes down to how accurate you are generally as a player, but personally, I have much more success when I switch to a pistol and unload an entire clip into them in about 2 seconds. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of the phrase, speed kills, but when it comes to pistols, speed kills. Anyway, moving on, the final strength I've got for you, I suppose could be considered a tip, but I consider it such a good tip that it's actually a strength of the class as well. In simple terms, all the smoke that you have plus reviving people equals enormous scores, enormous loads of points. There are many, many, many ways of getting large scores in Battlefield 1, and one of those ways is to revive the hell out of your team. And seriously, with the 6 loads of smoke that this loadout has to cover you in order for you to revive, you are going to have revives coming out the wazoo. But more on smoke in the tips section. And speaking of the tips section, let's move on to said tips section. Now, for the first couple of tips, let's go back to the sweeper, because while I just praised it in every way, it does have a couple of drawbacks. The first tip I've got for you is to only fire automatic when you're actually at close range. I mean, while I just had like a giant nerdgasm over the sweeper in the strength section, when you're firing fully automatic, it is I've got to say, it is very inaccurate, so only fire automatic when you're at close range. Medium range maybe if the enemy is already on like half health, but otherwise you're just going to miss. That being said, the second tip, while keeping that previous tip in mind, I suggest you keep the weapon in automatic firing mode at all times. I advise you don't keep switching between single fire and fully automatic. I would say just keep it in automatic 100% of the time, and if you want to be more accurate, just fire single shots manually when in automatic mode. Don't start switching fire modes constantly, because you're just going to end up confusing yourself, and you know what's going to happen. There's going to be some point where you run around a corner and run right into an enemy, and you think that you've got it in automatic mode, and you'll fire one bullet because it's actually in single fire mode. It's going to happen. So keep the weapon in automatic mode at all times. Anyway, let's move on to smoke tips. Now, this is where shit gets real, and this is where you're going to make the most of this class. The first tip is relatively simple. I would say try and use your smoke constantly and consistently, and resupply as often as possible by going near ammo packs and crates. It's surprisingly easy to forget you have so much smoke on this class. I mean, this loadout specifically has 6 lots of smoke, and it can all be resupplied. The grenades can be resupplied, and all 4 rifle grenades can be resupplied. So use the smoke that you've got as often as possible and resupply it just as often. That being said, I've got a few mini tips all at once. While I say consistently and constantly use the smoke, don't just number one, don't just blind your teammates, because that's the number one flaw of having so much smoke. You end up blinding your own team as well as the enemies. So try and avoid that. But the main tip of using smoke is to use the smoke as cover to advance closer to enemies or objectives, or both. I mean, to this end, it's best used in open spots between lots of cover where it's just open and you're most exposed. Now, the next tip to using smoke smartly, this is actually a double-edged sword. I would say use it to conceal objectives. Literally, it's often a good idea for you to throw smoke down literally at your feet on an objective, if it's like an open area objective, like a flag that's out in the open. If not, then it's actually often an even better idea to throw it instead at sort of doorways and all the sort of pathways leading to the objective. In other words, so that enemies have to run in blind. The underlying theme to all these tips is just to play smart. Use the smoke to sort of either blind your enemies or to conceal yourself so you can move about. And that leads to the next sort of tip. Use the smoke to conceal fallen teammates so you can revive them. Along with concealing objectives so you can play the objective, concealing dead teammates is the other main use for smoke, in my opinion, to make it 1,000 times easier to revive teammates. And I will make the point here that since this class uses 6 lots of smoke and a revival tool, there's no equipment slot free for a health pack or health crate, so all you can do is revive. Now, a lot of people will hear what I just said and think that because there's no sort of healing factor, you may think that means less points, less XP, but that is absolutely not the case. Because this class is so close quarters with a shitload of smoke, you're going to find that you're going to be playing the objective more than you were before. And on top of that, you no longer have to worry about health values, and that's a big deal as a medic. That sort of frees you up to focus on getting kills and reviving people under cover of your smoke. Anyway, moving on, the last couple of tips are both about finishing off enemies that you've already damaged a little bit. The first of which is quite simply the obvious one, to switch to an M1914 and super spam the hell out of your enemies to finish them off. I chose the M1940 because it's fast as hell. I believe it's the joint fastest pistol in the game, along with the Calibri and, like, I think it's the Frommerstopper, maybe another one in a different class. They're 450 RPM. They are fast as hell. And I've always, since the game released, I've always loved the faster, weaker pistols over the slower, more powerful ones. And in terms of the Chainsmoker Superclass specifically, you're going to find that despite the fact that the Sweeper has a large mag size of 21, because you're fighting in close quarters, you're going to run into multiple enemies a lot of the time. So even with a large mag size, you're going to run out of ammo a lot. And in these cases, it's often just easy to switch to your super fast pistols to finish them off. Now, the last tip I've got for you is along the same lines to do with finishing people off, and it's to finish off point-blank shots with your melee weapon, not your pistol. The chosen melee weapons for this superclass, the Sawtooth Blade and the Hatchet, they do huge damage, like over 50% damage, unlike all the knives which do a small amount of damage. So if you run around a corner and you get a couple of hip-fire shots with your sweeper, just melee them instantly and it will, more often than not, it will insta-kill them. I literally can't stress how often I do this, how often I run around corners, shoot, melee. It happens several times a game, seriously. It's more often than you think it is. Since this class is close quarters, you're always running around corners into enemies, especially when you put down 6 fucking loads of smoke. You're going to be constantly running into enemies. That's specifically why I equipped a high damage melee weapon for this superclass, because I'm constantly finishing people off with one single hit. Anyway, that's all I've got for you for this video. I hope you enjoy using this superclass as much as I do. It can be tricky to use, because it's a very different class to play with than all other medic classes. I mean, it really is. It's got a steep learning curve. So you might find that you play with this class and you suck for several games in a row, but then suddenly you start playing really good. You've just got to get used to using the sweeper. It's a very unique weapon. But I wish you all the luck in the world. It's a fun class to play. So don't get like put off if you suck with it for a round or two. Play with it, get used to it, and you will start kicking ass. I promise. Like this video if you liked it, like this video if you didn't like it, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Liquid Blitz out.